A dragon escaped from another planet and landed on Earth. And nobody could understand him until a little girl learned to speak his language. In this epic story, you witness sky battles of fire, legendary friendships, and the impossible attempts to make peace between humans and dragons. Before we dive in, I'd love to know, where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments, it really helps support the channel. And if you want more dragon content, make sure to subscribe and stay tuned, there's a lot more coming your way. Alright, are you ready? The journey of the dragon and the little girl begins now. Stars so sharp they looked like they were carved from glass shone in the night sky over the Nevada desert. Out here, miles from the bright lights of Las Vegas, it was completely dark until a sudden, soundless streak of blue fire shot across the sky. Maya Serrano, who was 12 years old, sat cross-legged on the roof of her family's small ranch house with a telescope next to her. She came up here to get away from her little brother's video games and to see the Perseid meteor shower. But the thing that tore the sky just now wasn't any meteor she'd ever heard of. The streak slowed down, then it bent, like a bird of prey circling to catch its prey. Maya stopped breathing. She whispered, "No way," her heart racing. The glowing shape disappeared behind the ridge of red mesa with a soft, distant thud that shook the dry ground. No thunder, no sound. She only felt a pulse in her teeth. Maya hurried down the creaking roof ladder and landed with a thud in the yard. The air in the desert smelled a little like ozone, sharp and metallic, like a storm had come through an hour early. Her parents were still working the night shift at the diner. Just right. She took her flashlight and got on her old bike. The path to Red Mesa was a mix of broken clay and light stone. Maya pedaled hard, and the smell of ozone got stronger as coyote yips echoed from far away. She saw a thin mist at the bottom of the mesa's dry arroyo. It looked like smoke caught in moonlight. As she pushed her bike forward, the tires made a crunching sound over the gravel. Then came the heat. A wave came across the arroyo so quickly that it made her gasp. The fog cleared. There was a shape inside. There was no plane that had crashed. She had never seen anything like it in her science magazines. It was living. The creature lay curled up like a big, shiny cat with its wings folded tight. The scales were a deep blue that turned violet where the moonlight touched them. The tail, which had silver spikes on it, twitched once and sent a shower of sparks across the sand. Maya stopped moving, one sneaker half buried in the dirt. The creature's eyes opened quickly, revealing to molten gold balls. She couldn't get any air. The dragon raised its head, because what else could it be? As it breathed out, steam curled out of its nose and a low hum shook the air. Maya's mind raced. You're seeing things. You hit your head. There are no real dragons, but everything about it screamed real. The smell of smoke, the heat coming off its body, and the way the sand hissed when it breathed. "Hi," she said, her voice squeaking. The dragon tilted its head, as if it were interested. It made a quiet series of clicking sounds from its throat, which weren't quite words or a growl. Maya said, "I don't get it." It clicked again. Then it made a low, musical sound that sounded like a cello string. Maya's heart raced. She answered back, even though it didn't make sense. It was just a hum that matched the pitch. The dragon slowly blinked. Its pupils got smaller and then bigger. It hummed again, this time with a rising note, like a question. Maya repeated the pattern without even thinking. The air between them felt warm and alive, like it was vibrating. In her mind, something changed. She saw a burning sky, a silver ocean, and another dragon with green scales. For a moment, she wasn't in the desert. She was flying through purple clouds under three suns. She fell back, feeling dizzy. Oh, the dragon's huge head came down until its snout was level with her chest. A soft, smoky breath touched her face in a strange way. Maya whispered, "I think you can hear me. You get it." The creature made a rumbling sound that sounded like a yes. Maya stayed until the sky turned pink and gold at dawn. They talked to each other by humming and making simple gestures. She tapped her chest and said, "Maya." And after a pause, the dragon made a series of sounds that turned into a single, almost word. Kelth. Kelth. She felt like she had known Kelth for a long time by the time the sun rose over the mesa. But the light of day brought reality back. People would see the burned rocks and the smoke. Someone would show up. And Kelth, this amazing, impossible creature, was too big to hide. Maya promised, "I'll be back tonight," as she lightly brushed her fingers over a warm sapphire scale. "Don't let anyone see you." Kelth's golden eyes softened, as if he got it. Maya got home just before her parents did. The day felt like it was going on forever. She stared through her lessons at school, with Kelth's pictures flashing behind her eyes, silver oceans, violet clouds, and a whole world beyond the stars. She was riding back by nightfall, but Kelth wasn't alone when she got to the arroyo. Two black SUVs were parked at strange angles, with no markings on them. People in dark windbreakers stood around the dragon, and flashlights cut sharp cones through the dusk. A portable spotlight lit up Kelth's scales in white. The dragon crouched low, its tail lashing, and a low growl echoing off the rocks. Maya's chest felt tight. "They'll hurt him." One of the agents held up a strange rifle. "No." Maya yelled and ran out of the shadows. Everyone turned round. "Kid, get back." A woman yelled. Maya jumped in front of the spotlight and Kelth. "Don't shoot. He's not a threat." The agent frowned. "It's a wild animal. He's not." Maya turned to the dragon and cried, "It's okay. Kelth, stay cool." Kelth's growl turned into a low, vibrating purr. The agents stopped moving. Someone said, "What the?" The woman with the gun thought about it. "It knows her." Maya swallowed hard. "Please, I want to talk to him." The agents looked at each other with worry. Finally, the woman dropped her weapon a little bit. 2 minutes. "But if it does move," Maya said. "It won't." She turned back to Kelth, her heart racing. She thought, "Please trust me." But she felt the words. In her mind, a slow, soft hum said, "Trust." That night, under a slice of moon, Kelth told Maya bits of his story in flashes and pictures that played out in her mind. A world with tall crystal towers and an endless sky. Dragons flying round in purple storms. And then, out of nowhere, a raid. Shadows with sharp edges of light. Kelth running away through a stargate. He hadn't come to take over. He had been taken. But something darker came after him through the breach. Maya shook as the last picture burned into her mind. A fleet of huge, winged, and armored shapes racing through a red-lit void toward a blue planet. A world of... Maya crouched next to Kelth, her knees pressed into the warm sand, while the desert wind whistled through the red mesa canyons. There were 6 men and women in dark windbreakers on the government team. They had set up a circle of tripods and humming devices round the arroyo. There was a faint blue glow between the poles, like a fence of light. Kelth's golden eyes got smaller. The low rumble in his chest shook the ground and Maya's bones. His knees were so sharp that she could almost taste it. "It's just to keep you safe," Maya said, looking at the lead agent, a tall woman with a sharp jawline and a badge that only said, Cortez. "Is that right?" Agent Cortez didn't look up from the tablet she was holding. Containment. Not trying to hurt anyone. But Kelth's tail flicked and hit a rock, which broke like glass. Maya had a hard time swallowing. "You're making him scared." Finally, Cortez's eyes met hers. "Kid, we should be the ones who are scared. That thing could melt metal." Maya said, "He has a name," before she could stop herself. "Health, and he isn't a thing." There was a short silence after that. One of the younger agents raised an eyebrow at Cortez, as if to say, "Are we really negotiating with a 12-year-old?" Cortez let out a breath. "Hey, Maya. He came from somewhere else. No matter what he is. We can't just let him go until we know he's not a threat." Kelv moved closer to Maya, who was a wall of scales and heat that protected her. An image grew in her mind through the strange, wordless link. It was of dark shapes moving through space, with winged shapes silhouetted against a blood-red horizon. They're on their way. It wasn't words, but it rang in her head like a bell that had been hit. Maya became stiff. "Cortez, we need to talk. In private." They took a few steps back. The agents kept their flashlights on Kelv, who was sitting still and watching. "Do you want to tell me what's going on?" Cortez asked. Maya's voice shook. "He is warning us. There is something behind him. Something bad." Cortez looked at her. "You mean more of those are on the way?" "Not like him," Maya said quickly. "He didn't run away to hurt us. He was getting away. But the other ones..." She stopped talking, and a new wave of pictures came to her mind. Huge black dragons with blades of light cutting through a burning sky. Cortez frowned. "How do you know this?" Maya thought for a moment. "He showed me." Cortez blinked. "Showed you? You mean mind reading?" "I don't know. It's just that when I am back, I can see what he sees." Cortez rubbed her head. "Good. Dragons from other worlds and kids with psychic powers. This is too much for me." A loud roar came out of nowhere and filled the night sky. The ground shook. Everyone turned to the east. Above the desert horizon, clouds swirled in a strange way. In the dark, electricity shot through the air in strange purple streaks. There was a deep, throbbing vibration in the air, like the pulse Maya had felt the night Kelv came, but 100 times stronger. Kelv pulled back and opened his wings. Blue fire sparks fell off his scales. "What's that?" An agent yelled. Maya's connection to Kelv was so strong that she stumbled. "The door." His idea hit her like a brick wall. "They get through." There was a noise like metal tearing as the spiral broke apart before she could answer. A jagged wound opened up in the sky and glowed red. A shape came out of it, huge, with wings and glowing red light. A different dragon, bigger than Kelv. The sound of the armor-black scales roaring broke the stillness of the desert. Wow. The thunder of beating wings drowned out an agent's curse. The creature fell down in a rush of hot wind. The lights round the edge went off in a shower of sparks. When the dragon landed, the ground shook and sand flew through the air. Its eyes were the color of lava that was melting. Kelv roared back, aloud, fierce challenge that shook Maya to her core. "Everyone, back off." Cortez yelled. Agents ran behind the SUVs with their guns drawn. But the black dragon lunged before anyone could take aim. A blast of red fire shot out of its mouth, cutting through the desert like a living flame. The rocks broke. A cactus turned to ash. Kelv jumped forward, spreading his wings wide. His own fire, which was a bright blue-white, met the red-hot fire with a hiss of steam and sparks. The air between them was hot. Maya covered her face and coughed in the hot wind. She had to take action. "Stop." She yelled with all her strength. "Please stop." Kelv's mind touched hers, angry and hopeless. God, the black dragon lord, and the sound was more than just anger. It felt like it was giving orders. Maya saw flashes through the link, a planet on fire, fleets of dragons diving through smoke, and a voice that sounded like grinding stone saying, "Bring the runaway back. Kill the weak. They're here too. Take you." She gasped as she realized what was happening. "And they'll kill us to do it." Kelt's answer was a blast of blue fire that made the black dragon take a step back. Cortez crawled over to Maya, his eyes wide open behind the smoke. "We have to go. Now." Maya said, "No," and was surprised by how steady her voice was. "That thing will tear the whole desert apart if we run. Kelth can't do it by himself. Cortez looked at her like she had grown wings. He's already fighting it by himself. Maya put her hands on the hot sand and her heart raced. She remembered the humming pattern that had first brought her and Kelth together. It might work again, but only maybe. She shut her eyes and started to hum in a low, deep voice. The note wavered in the chaos until she found the same pitch Kelth had used that first night. Kelth's head turned toward her through the smoke. His golden eyes got brighter. Maya raised her voice and added a second, high note. She thought, listen to me. We have to stop this. The black dragon stopped in the middle of its swipe and tilted its head, as if it had heard something. The red fire in its throat flickered. Kelth added his own harmony, a deep, throbbing counterpoint that shook the ground. The combined resonance filled the air with a strange music that seemed to push back the heat of battle. The other dragon hesitated for a moment, just a heartbeat, and its molten eyes showed signs of confusion. Then it let out a roar of pure rage and flew into the air, knocking agents flat with the force of its wings. Lightning flashed across the ripped sky as it disappeared through the swirling gap. The wound in the clouds closed with a hiss, leaving only the sound of the desert wind and the crackling of the scorched ground. Be quiet. Maya woke up. The stars were still there, cold and bright, as if nothing had happened. Agents slowly came out from behind rocks and cars, their faces pale. Cortez let out a shaky breath. Hey kid, I don't know what you just did, but it bought us time. Kelth put his huge head down next to Maya. His scales still glowed a little, but the tension in his body eased. A warm wave of thanks washed over her mind. Brave, Maya was able to force a small, tight smile. Thanks. Cortez knelt down next to her. We need to warn Washington and the whole world if more of those things are coming. Maya shook her head. It's bigger than that. They're not just coming here. They want him, and they'll set fire to everything to get him. Cortez looked at Kelth and then at the sky. Then we need a plan. As dawn broke over the mesas, the government team packed up their gear in silence. The rock that had burned was still smoking round the arroyo. Cortez stayed behind with Maya and Kelth, her face pale. Finally, she said, we're moving you both to a safe place, somewhere. We can keep him safe and maybe figure out how to stop whatever's on the other side of that portal. Maya ran her hand over Kelth's warm scales. He's not a test subject. Cortez's face softened. I know, but we can't fight them with rifles if more of them come. We need every advantage we can get, even him. Kelth rumbled, which wasn't exactly a yes or no. Maya had a quick thought. Don't fight, speak. Her eyes got bigger. He doesn't want to fight them. He wants to. She thought about it for a moment, translating the feeling. He wants to talk, to bring about peace. Cortez frowned. Peace, what we just saw. Maya said firmly. He thinks it's possible, if we can get to them before they decide to set everything on fire. Kelth bent down until his nose touched the ground next to Maya. There was warmth and determination in the link together. Cortez looked at Maya. Then that's what we'll do. We go to them. We talk to each other. The agent's jaw tightened as she looked up at the dark sky. Kid, you might be the only one who can do that. Maya put her hand on Kelth's nose. Then we should be ready. The dragon's golden eyes shone with something more than light. Hope, which was strong and weak like the new day. Dawn broke over the Nevada desert like a sharp piece of copper. The air still smelled like burnt rock from the night before. Maya stood next to Kelth while the government team loaded their black SUVs. They looked pale and tired from not getting enough sleep. Agent Cortez came over, his tired eyes hidden behind dark sunglasses. We're ready with a safe place to transport. Nellis has an underground hangar. We can if we leave now. Kelth rumbled, which made the sand dance with pebbles. Maya got a lot of meaning from their bond. not cage. Fly. Maya looked at Cortez. He doesn't want to be put away. And he is right. If those other dragons open another gate, we'll be sitting ducks. Cortez put her arms across her chest. Kid, we can't just jump on his backhand. Why not? Maya cut in. We have to get to them before they bring more. Kelth can take us too. Wherever that rift goes. The agent looked at her like she had wings. Through a hole in the sky that goes between dimensions. You're 12. Maya said. I'm 12. And I'm the only one he talks to. You need me just as much as I need him. Cortez's jaw moved, and the wind in the desert blew her short hair. At last, she said, "This is crazy." She looked at her team. We need help from the air and long-range communication. Now, the first flight the agents had packed oxygen masks, thermal blankets, and a small radio beacon into a strong pack within an hour. Kelv crouched low with his wings spread out like shimmering sails, and Maya fastened it across her chest. "Are you ready?" Cortez asked, his voice tight. Maya nodded and climbed up the dragon's side, holding onto the ridge of warm scales. Kelv tilted his head so that she could sit behind his wide neck. His body was warm, like leaning against a living furnace. "Wait," Cortez said as he stepped back. If something goes wrong, Maya could barely hear the rest. With a loud thrust, Kelv shot up into the air. The desert fell away in a blur of ochre and shadow. As the dragon climbed higher and higher, the wind roared in Maya's ears. The mesas shrank to toy-sized plateaus, and the SUV turned into black ants on a pale canvas. The speed made tears run sideways across her face. "Are you okay?" The thought echoed in her head like a warm chord. She smiled even though it was freezing outside. "More than good," Kelv answered with a deep hum that sent chills down her spine. They cut through the upper atmosphere, where the sky turned a deep indigo color and was full of stars. Then the world shook. A jagged, blood-red rift opened up in front of them, swirling like a living wound in space. It was a bigger version of the portal that the black dragon had used, and it pulsed with an evil rhythm. Maya's stomach turned. "That's it, right." Yes, Kel's thought came, full of determination. Home and war. Through the gate, lightning in a purple color crackled along the edges of the rift. Kelv tilted his wings and dove straight at it. Maya's senses stretched and twisted the moment they crossed. There was no more gravity. Sound turned into light, and light turned into sound. She felt as if Kel's heart and hers were beating in time with each other, like they were both one being racing through an endless prism. Then snap. There were 3 suns in the sky when they came out: copper, blue, and soft green. There were huge crystal spires that went through clouds that looked like amethyst. Below was a city with wide arches and shining towers, half of which were scarred by blackened craters. Maya took a deep breath. "It's pretty and broken." Kel flew over a silver ocean that looked like molten glass because of the 3 suns. But the horizon was on fire, with smoke rising from faraway mountains and glowing red like open wounds. When war came, Kel's mind was full of sadness. Shapes moved across the sky. They were sleek, armored dragons with scales made of obsidian and wings with jagged metal patterns. Patrols. Maya whispered, "They'll see us. They already have." The attacker loud scream broke the silence. 3 dark dragons flew toward them in a deadly V-shape. Their eyes turned red, and each breath left a trail of sparks. Kelv turned sharply and dove into the ocean. The patrol chased after them, and their combined roar shook Maya's chest. "Kelv, what should we do?" She yelled over the wind. "Speak," was the firm answer. "Say peace." They leveled off above the water, and the spray cooled Maya's cheeks, which had been burned by the wind. Kel slowed down and floated just above the waves. The 3 dragons flew down like sharks. One broke away from the group and landed with a loud splash on a rocky ledge. Its wings spread wide, showing silver battle scars. Its voice echoed across the water in a language of deep, rumbling growls and clicks. Kelv answered with a series of musical notes. Maya felt the exchange through their link, a mix of anger and sadness, challenge and recognition. The dark dragon's mind touched her suddenly, cold and sharp. You protect the traitor. Maya jumped. I'm not protecting anyone. We came to talk. A hiss of disbelief went through her head. Does a human child speak? Not possible, Maya said out loud. Not impossible, as Kelth had taught her to do. Kelth left because he wants peace. You don't have to fight. The dragon's fiery eyes got smaller. The High Brood says there will be war. The people burned our sky before. We respond with fire. Maya's heart skipped a beat. They believe we attack them. She saw a lot of pictures in her head, like old human satellites falling like meteors and explosions in a purple sky. Legends were made from misunderstandings. It wasn't war, she begged. It was an accident. We had no idea. The dark dragon paused, and a look of doubt crossed its face. Kelth hummed along, sad chord that echoed through the water and the bones of everything alive nearby. The other two patrol dragons looked at each other nervously. Finally, the leader said, "The brood queen needs to hear this. Follow. But be careful, traitor. Her word is law." Kelf bowed his head. We follow. The queen of the brood, they flew for what felt like hours through huge crystal canyons where violet mists whirled like living silk. Finally, they came to a huge castle made of obsidian and glowing light that had been carved into a mountain that seemed to be on fire. Dragons of all sizes sat on the ridges, watching Kelf with suspicion. The great hall was lit up by rivers of molten crystal inside. In the middle was the brood queen, who was huge and scary. Her scales were a dark, shiny garnet, and her horns twisted like old spires. She gave off waves of power. Kelth, her voice in her head yelled, "You come back with a person." Kelth put his head down. To say peace, Maya felt like she was being held down by the queen's gaze. "A child from Earth dares to sit on our throne. Why shouldn't we burn your world like ours did?" Maya's knees shook, but she moved forward. "Because we never wanted to hurt you, no matter what happened before. It wasn't war. Please, let us show you." The queen's eyes, which were like lava, narrowed. "Words are like the wind. Show the truth." Maya's heart raced. I can share memories." She looked at Kelth, hoping the weird connection would work both ways. He gently touched her shoulder with his snout, and a warm current flowed between them. She thought about pictures, her little desert town, her parents laughing at the diner, her school friends playing basketball, and a world full of oceans, forests, and people who just wanted to live. Kelth made the visions bigger, and they sparkled in the hall like real-life holograms. There was a deep silence. The queen looked at the memories, and her tail curled and uncurled like a living flame. Finally, she spoke, and her voice was softer but still strong. "Maybe we were wrong, but it's hard to put out the fires of revenge. A lot of my kids want revenge." Maya took a deep breath. "Then let's start with a ceasefire. We can get together and get to know each other. Don't hurt us, please." The queen's eyes went from bright garnet to a deep amber as she thought. "A truce, if your people talk like you do." "They will," Maya said, hoping it was true. A long silence. Then the queen lifted her huge head. "That's how it is. But the High Brood is huge. Some people won't listen. Some are already flying toward your world with fire in their hearts." Maya's chest got tight. "Then we need to move quickly. Please help us stop them." The queen tilted her big head toward Kelth. "Leave. Tell your Earth. I'll call the council." Back through the stars, Kelth and Maya left the citadel as the three suns were setting. As they flew toward the rift, Maya felt a mix of hope and fear. Kelth told her that she spoke well. "Brave heart, I just told the truth," she said, holding onto his warm scales as the wind howled round them. He said, "Truth is the strongest fire. The crack opened up in front of me, swirling with red and violet. The Queen's signal echoed through the crystal peaks behind them. It was a deep, resonant call that could bring friends or enemies. Mai looked back as they dove back toward the tier between worlds. Some dragons flew in the purple sky, and some rose as if to follow. "We need to warn everyone," she said softly. Kelf did agree. "The storm is here." They jumped into the portal, and the universe turned back into color and sound. When the stars in Nevada snapped back into place, the air on Earth felt almost fragile. Cortez and her team looked up in shock and relief as Kelth came down in a graceful spiral. Maya's heart raced with both fear and determination. They had taken the first step toward peace, but the hardest fight was still to come. When Kelth and Maya came back through the rift, the Nevada desert sparkled with stars. The dragon world had a heavy, sun-splintered atmosphere, so the sudden return to Earth's cool night air felt almost thin. The black SUVs and their floodlights looked like fireflies that had been scattered. As Kelth came down, Agents yelled, and his wings stirred up a storm of dust. Agent Cortez ran forward, covering her eyes. "You are alive," she said, her voice breaking. "What happened?" Maya slid off of Kelth's warm side, her legs shaking. Quickly, "We met their queen," she said. "She'll talk. But some of her kids are already on their way here. We don't have a lot of time." The night round them got quiet. Cortez's jaw got tight. "How many?" Maya shook her head. She didn't say, but enough to set cities on fire. The agents looked at each other with worry. Cortez switched into command mode. "We need to tell DC right away. The command center in just a few hours." Kelth was carefully taken to a safe hangar near Nellis Air Force Base. Escorted doesn't even begin to describe the swarm of armored vehicles and military helicopters that surrounded him. The big room smelled like metal and oil. A loud hiss sealed the giant doors behind them. Soldiers in fatigues stood around the edge, their rifles lowered but not forgotten. Kelth's golden eyes moved around the room carefully. Maya could feel his discomfort through their bond, a wave of heat and worry. "It's okay," she said softly, patting his warm scales. "They just don't know you yet." As military officials and scientists crowded round, banks of screens came to life. A 4-star general walked in, and his medals made a soft noise. "Agent Cortez, is this the creature?" he asked, his eyes never leaving Kelth. Maya said firmly, "He has a name, Kelth." The general blinked, as if he wasn't used to getting corrected by kids his age. "Okay, Kelth." He looked at Maya. "And you can talk to him?" "Yes, and he can sort of talk back." "Listen, there isn't enough time for tests. His kind of dragons are coming. We need a global response, not missiles." "Talks?" The general raised an eyebrow. "Are you saying we should talk to alien dragons?" Maya looked him in the eye. "I'm talking about survival." Everyone in the room became quiet as her words sank in. Giving the world a briefing, Kelth and Maya were moved to a high-security conference room with live feeds to the United Nations within an hour. Round the round table, people from every major country looked into cameras, their faces a mix of disbelief. Maya stood next to Kelth, who was very tall. Her heart was pounding so hard that she thought everyone could hear it. Cortez quickly introduced himself and then nodded to Maya. "Tell them." Maya took a big breath. "From Kelth's world, a fleet of dragons is coming. Some leaders there want peace, but others think we attacked them hundreds of years ago. They're mad, and they have the power to level cities. Before they get here, we have one chance to stop them, a truce." There was a low buzz of translators and hurried whispers in the room. The Japanese ambassador leaned in. "Do you want us to believe a child?" Maya looked him in the eye. "You don't have to trust me. Trust the proof." She pointed to Kelth. "He put everything on the line to warn us." Kelth bowed his head and let out a low, deep hum that shook the floor and everyone in the room. The sound was both scary and beautiful, and it had a meaning that words couldn't match. The delegates stopped talking. The U.S. ambassador finally said, "We need a coordinated defense if this is true." Maya said, "No, you need to talk to each other in a coordinated way. If you attack, they'll think that means humans want war. You will start the very thing we are trying to stop." Cortez said, "We've seen one of these dragons. Our weapons barely hurt it. Conventional defenses, not realistic." The French representative leaned in. "What do you want to do then?" Maya's throat was dry. "Make a way for their queen. I can be a link. Kelth and I will help set up a meeting." There was a long pause. Finally, the Secretary General nodded slowly. "We will allow a peaceful summit, but we also need to get ready in case peace fails." Maya let out a breath. It wasn't perfect, but it was better than nothing. The first signs the world changed over the next day. News got out even though the military was trying to keep it secret. The headlines on TV screens read, "Dragon Alliance, Alien Contact in Nevada." People gathered outside military bases. Some people prayed, some protested, and some were happy. Maya barely slept in the hangar. Kel stayed close, and his presence was steady. She could sense his quiet admiration and his own hint of worry through their link. He told her they would be there soon. "I can feel the sky move." "How soon?" she asked. "Before the next full moon." Her stomach got tight. "Then we need that summit right now." Cortez came up to them with a tablet and a serious look on her face. Satellites saw strange things, energy readings over the Pacific. "Something big is coming." Maya's heart raced. "It's them." The general from before came in, his voice tight. "Our radar confirms that there are several fast-moving objects coming down through the atmosphere. Expected arrival time, 6 hours. The attack starts." The base was full of alarm sounds. Troops ran to their posts. Outside, jets screamed through the sky. Kelf raised his head and narrowed his golden eyes. He sent too soon and felt a wave of tension go through him. Cortez picked up a headset. "Call NORAD. I need to see it to believe it." Satellite images appeared on a huge screen. Fiery streaks falling through the upper atmosphere. "Each one as big as a 747, an operator said. 5 confirmed. Trajectory west coast of the U.S. Near San Francisco." The general cursed. "We need interceptors. Hold on." Maya said, moving in front of the console. "Not all of them are hostile. The Queen said she would send messengers. We don't know what this group is." The general's jaw got tight. "We can put millions of lives at risk." Kelth made a sound like thunder from far away. "Let me talk." Maya nodded. "Now, patch me through to the UN and every major network." Talking to the world cameras started rolling and lights started flashing a few seconds later. Maya stood in front of Kelth, and people all over the world watched on TVs, phones, and streaming feeds. She started with, "My name is Maya Swanno." Her voice was steady even though her heart was pounding. "You've seen the lights in the sky. They're dragons that come from another world. Some people want war, but not everyone. Please don't start the fight. Give peace a chance." Kel stepped forward and played a chord that shook the hangar. The sound traveled through speakers and microphones, creating a rich harmony that shook the airwaves. People could feel it even through screens. "Please," Maya said again. "Stand down. We're setting up a meeting. Get in touch after less than an hour." Air raid sirens went off all over San Francisco as 5 huge shapes came out of the clouds. News drones filmed live footage of dragons with black scales and red eyes, wings that were bigger than city blocks. But instead of attacking, they hovered over the Golden Gate in a formation that was eerily perfect. Everyone in the hangar was watching the live feed. "They're waiting," Cortez said in a low voice. Kelth let out a breath, and blue sparks danced in the air. "Representatives." Maya's knees gave way with relief. It's them. The general took off his headset. They want a representative. The name isn't in our language. But they want you, Maya and Kelf. Cortez's eyes got bigger. You're the bridge. Maya tightened the straps on her flight harness and looked Kelf in the eye. Are you ready? All the time. The trip to San Francisco, Kelf jumped into the sky in just a few minutes, with Maya holding onto his scales as they flew west over deserts, mountains, and finally the sparkling Pacific. Fighter jets flew close by, their engines roaring like thunder in the distance. The ocean was painted red by the setting sun. The lights in San Francisco sparkled ahead, and the Golden Gate Bridge looked like a glowing arc over the dark water. The 5 dragons hovered above the city, their dark shapes standing out against the orange sky. Their eyes were like hot coals. Kel slowed down and flew round once before landing on a wide, empty pier that was blocked off by military barriers. The ground shook when he stepped on it. The lead envoy, who was even bigger than Kelf, came down in a swirl of sparks. Its eyes were a deep, careful amber instead of a red that looked angry. Maya slid down and stepped forward, and the salty air blew her hair around her face. The envoy bent its huge head. The Brood Queen keeps her word on the truce. We are here to talk. Everyone there, including soldiers, journalists, and officials, gasped at the same time. Maya bent down a little, her heart racing. Then let's talk. The salty air of San Francisco blew round Maya as she stood in front of the huge envoy. The lights on the Golden Gate Bridge flickered across the rough water like a line of stars. Kel stood behind her, tall and warm, which calmed her racing heart. The envoy's amber eyes shone like glass that was melting. It said again, in a voice that was deep enough to shake the pier, "The Brood Queen keeps her word, but the war brood flies without anyone knowing. They think the queen is weak. They will hit." Maya's heart raced. When? The envoy said before the next tide. They come with fire and noise. Kelf lowered his head, and a low growl came from his chest. This scared me. The soldiers who had gathered looked at each other with concern. General Morel yelled into his radio, "Get all the fighters on the west coast ready. Now." Maya turned quickly. "Not at all. If you attack first, it proves everything the war brood thinks about people." The general's jaw got tight. "And if we don't, we'll lose a city." The envoy watched the conversation without blinking. "The war brood won't talk. Your weapons won't work on them. But they might listen to a challenge." Maya made a face. "A challenge?" Kelv explained dragon law through their link. "If I fight their leader before the first flame is thrown, the fight will be between us only. If I win, they have to follow the queen's piece." Maya's breath stopped. "That sounds like a fight." Kelt's golden eyes looked into hers. "This is the only way." Getting ready for the sky duel, the envoy spoke about the ancient rite, and the pier became eerily quiet. The war brood would have to respect the outcome, but the duel had to start in the open sky, where both dragons and humans could see it. Maya said in a low voice, "You could die." Kelt's warm breath blew over her. "It's worth the risk for peace." The envoy reached out with a huge wing toward the dark horizon. "They're close." A distant roar echoed across the bay, like thunder rolling over steel. Everyone looked. 5 huge shapes came out of the mist at the edge of the ocean. Their scales shone red in the moonlight. The dark waves reflected the San Francisco skyline as the war brood flew closer, each wingbeat sending a shockwave of air. The soldiers who had gathered were in a panic. The city was full of silence. Searchlights cut through the night sky, following the dragons as they flew in. The envoy raised its head and yelled in a loud, piercing voice. The war brood yelled back with a deafening roar that shook the cables on the bridge. Kelv moved forward. "I want to fight your leader in the Rite of Flame." The biggest of the red dragons, almost twice the size of Kelv, hovered over the bridge with eyes that looked like burning coals. Its voice crashed down like an avalanche. Who talks about rituals with prey animals as witnesses? I do, Kelth yelled back. I fight for the Queen's agreement. You give in if I win. You might burn if I fall. The war leader's wings spread out, making a blood-red shadow over the bay. That's fine. The fight over the bay Kelth suddenly shot up into the sky. The war leader met him in the air, with a loud boom that echoed across the water. They flew up in a spiral, claws flashing, and their roars echoed through the night. Jets flew in circles far away, their weapons silent, and the world held its breath. Maya stretched her neck as the two dragons crashed into each other high above the bridge. Kelth rolled into a corkscrew that sent sparks flying like meteors as he dodged a stream of fire. The leader of the war struck back, his claws cutting across Kelth's wing. Kelth screamed in pain as a spray of golden scales glittered. "Come on," Maya said in a low voice, her fists clenched. Kelth spun round and hit things with his tail like a battering ram. With a loud snap, it hit the war leader's jaw and broke. The bigger dragon staggered, but got back on its feet and shot a fireball that lit up the sky in a bright orange bloom. The fire hit the water in the bay below, making it boil. "I won't give in," the leader of the war yelled. "Then you will fall," Kelth answered, and his voice shook Maya's bones. They climbed higher, past the towers of the bridge, where the stars shone coldly. Kelth folded his wings and dove down like a golden spear, hitting his enemy with a force that shook the ground. Their roar together shook the sky. The turning point, the war leader tried to bite Kelth's neck with his huge jaws, but Kelth turned and grabbed the bigger dragon's wing with his claws. He pulled hard and broke the membrane, making a loud crack that echoed across the bay. The red dragon howled as it spiraled down. Kelth followed, and fire shot from his throat in a bright arc that lit up the night. They crashed into the water, a blur of teeth, claws, and fire. At the last second, Kelth turned up, and the war leader crashed into the bay with a huge splash. The steam hissed as it went up. The water bubbled and churned as the hurt dragon fought. But then it stopped moving, beaten but alive. Kelth hovered, his chest heaving, his golden scales burned and bleeding. The war brood made a loud sound that was half growl and half song. They lowered their huge heads one by one. "We give in," and their voices echoed through the night. People cheered from the pier, the bridge, and every rooftop where scared people had watched the fight. Maya's heart raced. "You did it," she yelled. Kelth flew round once and then glided down, landing with a loud thud that shook the pier. His sides were heaving, but his eyes were bright. He said peace in a deep voice, his voice full of exhaustion and victory. A new day, the defeated war leader dragged himself up onto a rocky outcropping near Alcatraz and bowed his head to the envoy. "The right is respected. We do what the Queen says." The envoy raised its wings. "Then let the deal be signed." There was a low, solemn hum all round the war brood. It spread out over the water like a living vibration, like an old agreement. General Morel put down his binoculars and looked awestruck. He said in a low voice, "I've seen a lot, but never peace one in the sky." Maya ran to Kelth's side and put her hand on his warm, battle-scarred scales. "You saved us." He brought his huge head down until his golden eye met hers. "We saved one another." Sirens all over the city stopped. The crowd of soldiers, reporters, and civilians cheered and clapped, and their voices carried across the bay. The world reacts. The story spread quickly, and within hours, every screen on Earth showed Dragon Duel saves San Francisco. Billions of people were fascinated by the aerial battle video. At an emergency meeting of the United Nations, everyone agreed to the Celestial Accord, which promised to work with the dragons and banned any hostile action without the Council's permission. The Queen sent a telepathic message through her envoy, which was shown live. "We came looking for justice. We are still here for friendship." Leaders from all over the world promised to work with the dragons to share information and keep both worlds safe. Goodbye or hello. A few days later, When the city was still celebrating, Kelth and Maya stood on a quiet bluff that looked out over the Pacific. The sky lit up with a soft sunrise. Kelth said softly, "I have to go back to my people." Maya's throat got tight. "Will I see you again? The agreement ties our worlds together. There will still be paths open, and I will go see the one who brought us together." She smiled even though she was crying. "Promise, promise." He spread out a wing, and she stepped into the curve of his warm scales and hugged him tightly. For a moment, the girl and the dragon stood against the huge morning sky, their shapes outlined by the rising sun. Then Kelth spread his wings wide, sending a warm wind that blew away the sea mist. He shot up into the sky like a golden comet against the blue sky that was getting brighter. He became a distant light on the horizon. Maya kept watching until the speck was gone, with only one thought in her mind. It was no longer a dream to be at peace. It was real, and it all started with a girl and a dragon being friends.